Don't forget to hit that like button and subscribe to the channel so you don't miss out on any of our deep dives into the world of health and wellness.
Absolutely.
Today, we're diving into some fascinating source material that you sent our way. And it all revolves around this idea that women have a hidden, uninhibited side that only certain men can unlock. No.
It sounds a bit like clickbait, doesn't it?
It does.
But what's intriguing is that there's actually some science and evolutionary psychology that might be able to shed some light on this.
Okay, so let's unpack this a little bit.
Okay.
The source claims that women have two sides, the one they present to the world and this hidden, less inhibited side.
Right.
And it argues that this hidden side emerges when a woman is in her most aroused state.
Okay.
So is this just a sexist oversimplification, or could there be something to it?
Well, to really understand this, you need to look at the interplay between disgust and arousal.
Okay.
We all experience disgust. It's a natural human response that protects us from harm. Think rotten food or bodily waste, things that could carry disease.
Right. It's like our body's way of saying, stay away.
Exactly. But here's where things get interesting.
Okay.
Research shows that sexual arousal can actually significantly reduce feelings of disgust, making people more open to things that they might normally find repulsive.
Really?
This is key to understanding a study we'll discuss later, where researchers actually put this to the test.
That's fascinating. So we're less grossed out when we're turned on.
Pretty much, yeah.
But how does that tie back to this idea of a hidden side?
Think of it from an evolutionary perspective.
Okay.
Sex, while essential for the survival of any species, can involve things our primal brains might consider, well, disgusting.
Okay, I can see that.
So the ability to overcome disgust during sex could be an evolutionary adaptation to ensure reproduction.
Okay.
Essentially, our brains downplay the ick factor to guarantee the continuation of the species.
So we're hardwired to push past the ick when it comes to sex.
In a way, yes.
Are there examples of this in nature?
Absolutely. Take oral sex, for example. It's a common practice across cultures and is even observed in other primates like bonobos.
Wow.
While it might seem disgusting on the surface from an evolutionary standpoint, it has potential benefits for sexual and genetic compatibility. Something seemingly driven by pleasure or kink might have deeper roots in our evolutionary history.
That's pretty wild. So something that seems purely about pleasure could actually have this deeper evolutionary purpose.
That's what's so fascinating about this. It challenges us to look beyond the surface and consider the complex interplay of biology and behavior.
Okay, so how does all of this connect to the idea of unlocking a woman's hidden side?
Well, if arousal lowers inhibitions and reduces feelings of disgust, it could mean a woman's willingness to engage in certain sexual acts might be influenced by her level of arousal.
Okay.
This is where the experiment you mentioned comes in.
All right, let's dive into that.
Yeah.
What exactly did this experiment involve?
Researchers took 90 women and divided them into 3 groups. One group was sexually aroused by watching pornography. Another group was put into a happy, positive mood. And the final group was kept in a neutral emotional state.
Interesting. So they have these 3 distinct emotional states.
Right.
What do they do with these groups?
They gave each group a series of tasks.
Okay.
Some were sexual in nature, but others were designed to be, let's say, unpleasant.
All right.
We're talking things like handling used condoms, picking up used toilet paper, even drinking from a glass with a bug in it.
Okay. That's definitely venturing into unpleasant territory.
Yeah.
I'm curious, how did the groups react to these tasks?
The results were pretty striking. The sexually aroused group completed almost all the tasks, even the more unpleasant ones. The happy but not aroused group could only handle a few of the non-sexual tasks, and the neutral group basically tapped out almost immediately, struggling even with the easiest ones.
Wow. So there's a clear connection between arousal and a willingness to do things.
Yeah.
Even those that are objectively unpleasant.
Exactly. And this lends credence to the idea that arousal can significantly lower inhibitions, making people, in this case women, more open to experiences they might typically avoid. Yeah, it really highlights the power of our biological and psychological responses.
So does this mean men hold the key to unlocking a woman's hidden desires, as the source suggests?
It's not necessarily about men holding a key.
Okay.
This research is more about recognizing the influence of arousal on human behavior, especially in the context of sexuality.
Right.
It suggests that in a state of heightened arousal, inhibitions are lowered, and we might become more receptive to experiences we typically find repulsive.
That makes sense. But doesn't this raise some ethical questions?
Yeah.
If someone knowingly uses arousal to get another person to do something they wouldn't normally do, isn't that manipulation?
You've hit on a crucial point.
Yeah.
While understanding the science is fascinating, the ethical implications are just as important.
Because even if someone is physically aroused, it doesn't automatically equal consent, right?
Absolutely. Consent is non-negotiable in any sexual interaction, regardless of someone's level of arousal.
Right.
Manipulating someone into doing something they're not comfortable with, even under the guise of unlocking hidden desires, is never acceptable.
So while this concept of a hidden uninhibited side might be intriguing, it needs to be approached with caution and respect.
Precisely. Open communication and mutual respect are essential in any relationship.
Yeah.
Just because someone might be more open to certain experiences when aroused doesn't give anyone the right to exploit that.
It's not about treating someone like a puzzle to be unlocked, but about respecting their boundaries, desires, and choices.
Exactly. And it's important to remember all this is based on one source and a single experiment.
Right.
More research is needed to fully grasp the complexities of arousal, disgust, and sexual behavior.
We're just scratching the surface here.
Yeah.
Still, this deep dive has given us a lot to think about.
It certainly has. It reminds us to approach these topics with a critical eye, considering both the scientific evidence and the ethical considerations.
So to recap, the idea that women have a hidden, uninhibited side is complex.
Yeah.
It's not as simple as some sources might suggest.
It's about understanding the powerful influence of arousal, the evolutionary roots of disgust, and above all, prioritizing respect, consent, and open communication in all sexual interactions.
You know, thinking back to something you said earlier about sex being disgusting on a primal level, can you elaborate on that?
Sure.
It seems contradictory to the idea of arousal and pleasure.
It's about understanding the duality of our responses.
Okay.
On a purely biological level, sex involves bodily fluids, smells, and contact that our primal brains might perceive as potential threats. From an evolutionary standpoint, anything that could expose us to disease or parasites would trigger a disgust response.
That makes sense. So how do we reconcile that with the fact that sex is also incredibly pleasurable?
That's where arousal comes in.
Okay.
Our brains have evolved to override that initial disgust response with feelings of pleasure and reward when it comes to sex. It ensures we engage in behavior essential for the survival of our species.
So it's like our brains are saying, this might be a bit icky, but it's important, so let's make it enjoyable.
Exactly. It's a fascinating example of how biology and psychology work together to shape our behavior.
This concept of something being both disgusting and pleasurable is intriguing.
It speaks to the complexity of human sexuality.
Yeah.
Our experiences are shaped by a blend of factors: biology, psychology, culture, and individual preferences.
This deep dive has revealed that arousal can lower inhibitions, potentially leading to behaviors we might not typically engage in.
Right.
And that this is deeply rooted in our evolution. But it's crucial to remember that consent and respect are paramount.
Absolutely.
And manipulating someone using arousal is never acceptable.
Well said. Finding the balance between the science and the ethics is key.
Yeah.
As with anything related to human behavior, there's always more to learn and explore.
Absolutely. This has been a truly thought-provoking deep dive.
It has.
And I'll be pondering these ideas for a while.
I think we all will. It's a topic that raises essential questions about human nature, our relationship with our bodies, and the intricate interplay of biology and psychology.
It definitely makes you think about how much of our behavior is driven by instinct versus conscious choice. It's like we're walking this tightrope between our primal urges and our more evolved sense of morality.
That's a great way to put it. And when it comes to sex and relationships, those lines can get blurry. It's a constant negotiation between what feels good, what we believe is right, and what we're comfortable with.
So what does this all mean for someone trying to navigate the complexities of modern dating and relationships?
Yeah.
If arousal can have such a powerful influence on behavior, does that mean we're all just slaves to our instincts?
Not necessarily. Recognizing the influence of arousal is important, but it doesn't negate our ability to make conscious choices.
Okay.
We can acknowledge these biological and evolutionary forces without letting them dictate our actions.
So how do we find that balance?
It all comes back to communication and self-awareness. Understanding your own responses to arousal, being honest about your desires, and respecting the boundaries of others are crucial.
Yeah.
It's about creating a space where everyone feels safe to explore their sexuality without feeling pressured or coerced.
That's such an important point. It's not about unlocking someone else, but rather about creating a dynamic of mutual trust and understanding where both partners can feel comfortable expressing themselves fully.
Exactly. And remember, this is just one perspective on a very complex topic.
Right.
There's so much more to explore and understand about human sexuality, arousal, and the interplay of biology and behavior.
Well, this has been an incredibly insightful deep dive. It's definitely given me, and I hope you listening as well, a lot to think about when it comes to our own relationships and experiences.
I agree. It's a reminder that even in the realm of health and wellness, there are always new layers to uncover and new perspectives to consider.
And on that note, we've reached the end of another episode of Healthy Cast. If you enjoyed this deep dive into the fascinating and sometimes controversial world of arousal and behavior, don't forget to hit that like button and subscribe to the channel for more thought-provoking explorations of all things health and wellness. And as always, we'd love to hear your thoughts. Leave a comment below and tell us what resonated with you or what questions you still have. Thanks for joining us, and we'll see you on the next episode.